Welcome to For the Record. I'm Lily Coleman. Today we focus on protecting children when they go online. State Police Trooper Rocco Gagliardi recently unveiling a program that is meant to educate parents and organizations on how to keep kids safe from online predators and emerging AI threats. I sat down with Trooper Gagliardi to learn more about the threats kids face and the actions that parents should take. Thanks for being with us. I'm joined by Trooper Rocco Gagliardi with the Pennsylvania State Police. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You guys have a lot going on in your department. A lot of safety and kids on the internet. In this day and age, kids spend a lot of time online for school and then for play as well. Talk about some of the things that you're seeing right now.
Yeah, so what we saw last week is our Media Day showcase for our new program, which really highlights Roblox safety and online predators. And why we pushed that out is because it didn't matter where we went for any of our programs, whether that's safe driving or online safety, cyberbullying. The state police offers a lot of these free programs to the community at any time they would want it. All they have to do is send an email to their local PIO for the letter. And whenever we would go to these programs, in the course the past year and a half to 2 years, we couldn't go 10 minutes without a parent bringing up, hey, my kid wants to play Roblox. My kid wants to go online. What is going on with this cartoonish game? How can I protect my kid with Roblox? Because what they would start to see is some of these more predominant players on an online space, whether that's podcasts or videos on YouTube about kind of how these predators attack children. And that word is somewhat aggressive, but these predators are on the attack. And so what we have showcased last week and what we want to continue with is this free educational program for parents, families, or whoever might want it. So that program is about Roblox safety and online predators. And what we do is we want to have a good base foundation so that these parents understand what the Roblox platform really is. Because the first thing that comes out of anyone's mouth is, oh yeah, my son plays Roblox. Well, you are technically playing Roblox, but it goes way beyond that. That's mainly the platform on which you're playing millions of games.
So if someone's not familiar with Roblox, what is it?
Yeah, so almost like your kids playing the Xbox or the PlayStation, Roblox is really a transition to this more of a platform or a hub. And what that means is, just last year there was millions of new experiences. That's what they call them. It's pretty much games. So there's millions of games. So many games in Roblox that you or your child will not ever have the amount of time in their lifespan to play every single one. So pretty much it's a hub. You log on and there's just a laundry list of different of experiences that you can play at any given time. So that's what we want to showcase to parents. It's not just this one little feature. They can hop into millions of different portals at any time with unknown amounts of players.
So these bad guys, for lack of a better term, correct? When they are in Roblox or playing Roblox with these young kids, what does that look like? What sort of things are you seeing? What sort of red flags are out there that parents can maybe warn their children?
Right. So we got some time, so we can go over a lot of this. In our program, we really like to showcase two types of predators. One, which is the role play predator, and the other, which is the violent predator. Now, we can go over the most common one, which is just the predator who wants your child for sexualized images and nude images and stuff like that. And you have a smaller chance in Roblox to find the predator who's actually really addicted to your kid, where they actually come and travel to take your child. That's a really small percentage. We've seen that just a couple weeks ago. Actually, there was a news story about a guy drove from Nebraska all the way to Florida, and the Florida Sheriff's Department caught them in the transition there with a 12 and a 15-year-old. So there's all kind of different predators, but our program likes to showcase two. And those two predators and the ones we just talked about really have a strong input of trying to take your kid out of the game, actually. Roblox does have safety features, and if you as a parent who takes our course, you're going to learn all about the safety features, the parental controls that you can set up as a parent. And then you ask any kid, we ask kids all the time, hey, you say a bad word in Roblox, or you try to send your phone number, what happens? They say, oh, it's a bunch of hashtags come up. The kids know. And that means the predators know too. So what we see is the predator wants them out of that game in the worst way possible. They will start that relationship building in the game, and they want to transition that to one of the three main players for these predators, which are TikTok, Snapchat, and Discord.
Okay. And, is there an age limit for Roblox? Is there something in the system that's built, or is it really up to parents?
Yeah, so the minimum age requirement for Roblox is 5. So you have to be 5 years old. And for a long time, you would just log on to Roblox and you could talk to anyone at any given time. Then the parental control feature really started to implement. And that's where you as a parent can usually most of the time set controls for under 13 or above 13. And so if it's under 13, there's way more restrictions with chat, etc., and what games they can play. Over 13, you see more accessible links, more chatting features. And the biggest showcase we like to show is the age experiences per games. So that can be 5, 9, 17, 13, 19, 18 plus. So what we showcase to parents in this display of a program is that what we talked about earlier, this all comes full circle. Roblox is this hub. So you and I can develop a game and then post that onto the platform for anyone to play. And why that's incentive for us is because any parent that is watching this is going to know that Roblox is popular because it's free. And it's a really good opportunity to just say, hey, here's the iPad, go. And 2 months go by, and then the kid's asking their parents for Robux. They go, what on earth is Robux? And then you're out at the store buying gift cards because the kids want to spend the in-game currency on cosmetics and in-chat features and all kind of different stuff. So theoretically, they're still spending that currency. And when they're doing that in-game, and they're doing that in our game that we created, we get kicker back on that. So what we showcase in our program is, hey, here's some experiences that we have. I have a whole file of them, where we showed that last week, which was a game called Hugger Pass, where the age requirement for that game is 5 years old. So you as a parent can set that up in the parental controls correctly. And even if you do all that, your child who might be 6 years old can log on to a game that was called Hugger Pass and play that with anyone of any age. Now, theoretically, they're playing off of a more sexualized game called Smasher Pass. That's what it is. And they find these little loopholes. That game had over 110 million players since September. We've talked to a lot of great online partners, and a lot of reporting happened. We showcased that last week on our media day. The picture kind of blew up on X, and as of this morning, about an hour ago, Roblox took that game down.
Really? I mean, 5 and 6 seems so young. It seems even mind-boggling that could be an option for a child that young.
And when we teach other programs like Active Shooter or Scams, we always call it putting our dark cap on, right? Think like the other end. And if we were developing a game and we wanted to make as much money as possible, some of these people make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, creating these free games as people spend money in them. Why would you limit it, right? Yeah, we're going to set it to 5+, and hopefully Roblox approves that. And that's what usually happens most of the time, because they find these little loopholes. But when we show in this program, and we really want this program we want this to be the program of the year, because so many parents ask about it. And what we show is sometimes mind-blowing of that game. We just talked about Hugger Pass, right? The thumbnail of the game, it's all sexualized emojis. And you go, oh, here's the age requirement, which is 5 years old. And people are like, what? Yeah, your 6-year-old could be playing Hugger Pass with a 30, 40, 50-year-old. And parents go, well, I set up parental controls. That's why this program is so important, because we want to showcase the entire scope of all of the public information that we've gathered over the past 2 years for this program. Some people say, oh, it's far too late. Well, it takes a long time to, A, develop a program, B, pair that with Harrisburg for approval, the governor's office. And what you'll see with the governor's office is actually a really strong pairing with their new AI incentive program to protect kids. Because like we said earlier, when they want to get them out of the game, and there's a strong component with role playing, like we talked about the one predator, they'll bring them into a Discord channel or a video call with millions of people, and they'll start using AI technology to sound or deepfake. We did a deepfake video forever ago. We were like the first one to talk about deepfake technology. And these predators will use this deepfake technology to then maybe sound closer to their age, to get them on a more, they build that relationship level with AI, and sometimes these kids have no idea. So this program pairs really well with the governor's initiative for that AI safety feature.
Still ahead on For the Record, they call it putting on the dark cap. How investigators are trying to stop the next online threat to your child. Welcome back to For the Record. As I continue my conversation with Trooper Rocco Gagliardi about the threats online that your children are facing, he tells me more about the easy ways predators are targeting your kids. So in putting on that dark cap, so to speak, it's important for these predators in trying to get these young people off of the Roblox. What sort of tactics are they using?
Yeah, so what we showcase to parents is some of these more experiences, which are role playing or RP. You'll see a lot of experiences on Roblox kind of advertising role play or RP. Internally, that might be a more of an advertisement for the predator, say, oh, this is where we can go. But like I said, they want them out. So they will role play enough to say, hey, why don't you join our Discord group? And that's where we all talk about Roblox and we continue playing this game. Or what we see is the third-party advertisements. And I know this all comes full circle when it's a lot of information to really jam in. But Roblox is free. And you as a parent, oh, hey mom, can I get 500 Robux? You tell me no. Man, I really want that in-game cosmetic. Well, the game developer or anyone in that game might advertise free codes for free cosmetics. But you can only get those in our Discord page. So you see that, hey, oh, your parents won't get you the Robux? Why don't you come join our Discord? You'll get some free codes to use for the game. And just that quick transition out of the game, no one really thinks about it. But it's just building this layers of how these predators really attack your children.
What sort of things are these predators then introducing these kids to? I know previously you had mentioned maybe animal cruelty being one of those things. Talk a little bit about that, and then what else should parents be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so instead of the role play predator, we have the violent predator. And they have really two big tendencies for the violence, which is either self-harm, which is self-cutting. And we're not talking about the early 2000s where you see the cuts on the wrists or the inner thighs. This is a completely different form of cutting that this generation is only really seeing. And that is self-cutting on the chest area, the back, or the back end of certain shapes or logos. It's not just straight lines, it's actually detailed logos, detailed shapes, detailed predator, letters together. And when that happens, when the predator gets the picture of the kid saying, oh, I cut into me your shape, your logo, at that point, it's game over. The predator knows they've won. They can use those images for blackmailing purposes. They already know the kid is committed so far down the line to self-cut themselves, and where they do that is where the parent then can't see it. And we've seen really strong history with our federal partners, which is FBI Pittsburgh, was a huge help on a part of this program. And they actually were here, I think, a year ago on this same setup, talking about almost the same exact stuff, and just a different form of it, where they still are really interested in the animal cruelty. So they'll tell kids early to punch a hole in the wall or do this, take a video of it, and then it builds on the violence to then, hey, throw the cat across the room, take a video of it, or break your cat's legs, or punch your dog in the stomach. And then these kids do it and they post it, they share it, and then the predators, doesn't matter which one it is, whether it's the role player or the violent predator, they get pleasure in self-harm or harm against others. That's all they really want.
This is so scary. I'm thinking of this as a parent myself. Wasn't familiar with what Roblox was. Hearing this, that it's as young as 5, 6, I mean, that stops you in your tracks. What's your advice to parents in this day and age?
Right, because people always ask me, what do you think about Roblox? So this is a state program, right? So we really can't have an opinion one way or the other. Our program is a collection of public information, and we present that to the parent. And especially in that program that we are releasing now, which we have a wait list now for, which is incredible. We early say, we're not telling you to rip the iPad off the kid and totally delete the game. What we want you to do is see how deep this hole can go, and we want to make sure that it's not that quick. Oh, I already set up parental controls, I'm good. Well, it's a little bit more than that when it goes into, hey, well, yeah, you limited friend requests or you limited chat. Well, now there's a new feature where players can hold up signs and they can have whatever they want on that sign, whether it's phone numbers or messages of their own. And there's just a new experience that just happened a couple months ago. And I said, we work hand in hand with a bunch of online entities with this program where you might restrict all chat features, but the game itself has a cell phone that you can open up and send messages to other players. So there's always a workaround, there's always a new thing. We want parents to be as up to date as possible, and that's what this program can really do.
And still ahead, how state police are taking this program on the road to help educate parents, schools, and other organizations on how to keep kids safe. Welcome back to For the Record. As we rejoin my conversation with Trooper Rocco Gagliardi, I asked him about the long-term goal of the state police program to provide education about child predators online. What do you hope is your ultimate goal? I mean, obviously getting these parents educated, but then also seeing like real success in removing.
Yeah, and like I said, education is the only way we defeat this. It's the only way we tackle this. It's the only way we make sure kids are protected, because the kids know. They know everything. We go to a school on some, easier examples of saying, we bring up Roblox, we showcase the word Roblox, we show a picture of it. The auditoriums in the school they go crazy. The kids love this game. So we just want to make sure parents are understanding what can come in and out of that platform, and to update them with any sort of Roblox update. So Roblox just updated in January, where if your kid wants to play and they want to chat with other people, or if you as an adult want to chat with other people, you have to, they call it the gold standard, where you have to upload a photo of yourself. Almost when you bought a new iPhone. Did you ever get a new iPhone recently? You got to do that face circular thing. It's almost the same thing. It's about a 3-step picture process. That picture gets sent to Roblox. They have some sort of AI software which scans that image and says, you are between the ages of this and this. And then at that point, if they group you between the ages of 12 and 15, for example, you can only chat with other people that are 12 to 15 in that game. Now, you can still play with other people, but you can only see messages sent between 12 and 15. Now, day one, that gets released. We went straight to online websites like eBay, for example. There was 3 pages of online listings for Roblox accounts for sale, because you only really have to do that face scan once. So once you do that, email, password, hey, want it for $5? We got pictures of the listings. Day one, that comes out. eBay has since taken those listings down. But if they had the, how can I use my choice words here? If they had the strength to post that on an online for sale form, who knows what they're doing behind the scenes. Now, Roblox says if they have any sort of violation against that, they can request a secondary scan. And we also saw some early reports of kids getting 21 plus when they're not even really close to that as well.
So how does this relate, in speaking about this, to parents that think maybe it won't be my child? Recently, in a couple weeks ago, we had that case out of Peters Township where the high school senior class president is now, charged with multiple charges for sextortion, catfishing. What do you say to parents that think this won't happen in my neighborhood, or this won't happen to my kid, or it won't happen at my kid's school?
Right, and we always see, so funny enough, we actually have this program coming to Peters Township. We actually already had it on the books before, like a week before that all came out. We had it already on the books, but just we were waiting for some approvals, and then that whole kicked off. So this program in Peters Township at the beginning of April should have really high numbers. But for any of our program, it's always a cause effect, right? Hey, we're hosting this program, we can do this all day long. Our numbers are there, but they're not as plentiful. But when you have an incident like that, this program next month is going to be crazy. But don't look at it just as, oh, I can do it myself. What we have is state-of-the-art information with a bunch of different state partners from Louisiana, Texas, Florida, Kentucky. We have a personal case with the Boone County Sheriff's Department with Kentucky in this program. We have more information that you can probably get anywhere else. So just don't take it as it won't happen here, because, well, we already saw that it did. Now, was there a connection there with Roblox? I don't think so, but it's just one of the ways these predators can come after you, especially an 18-year-old did all that. Imagine what these groups of predators can really do more in an online setting with millions of players.
And ahead in just 2 minutes, a final thought from Trooper Rocco Gagliardi. Welcome back. As we wrap up this episode, I learned a little bit more from State Police Trooper Rocco Gagliardi about the online program aimed at protecting kids from child predators. Talk about taking this program on the road. You've mentioned schools, churches, anyone who wants it, it's available.
It's available. They can email me any day of the week. We'll get them on the books. We're hoping to host another media day, maybe more centralized here in a couple weeks. So way some media and some other players around that Hershey-Harrisburg way, more our HQ can get that program as well. And then we want to just keep the ball rolling. So whether they're far away or not, we can do an online thing. We can get there, and then we actually have a more internal conference here in a month. So we share that program with everyone else that's like me in all the different letters. And if they are comfortable enough sharing that program on their own time, then they'll be able to really extend that to every corner of our state. And this program is first of its kind. After talking to so many different state partners, you have different maybe class action lawsuits like with the AG or the state itself, but a full-blown program that showcases how Roblox works, how Roblox has parental controls, what is Roblox's safety features, and then we really dive deep into these game experiences and how the predators find these loopholes to come take your children, and how they do in-house actions to really harm themselves or their pets. We want to make sure the parents are understanding all of this before their child is maybe involved in sextortion or they are harming your cat, or the end goal, which some of these predators want, is just complete suicide.
Definitely a scary thought, and another reason why this is such an important conversation to have with your kids. That's all for today's episode of For the Record. I want to thank Trooper Gagliardi for joining us this week. We'll see you next Sunday morning at 11 o'clock.